Good morning, everybody. It is Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day so far. You can see that my December daily notebook, A Boho Birds December, is getting fuller and fuller. Is that a word? I don't think so. It's getting more and more full. I guess there's no need to flip through every page, but let me just turn the pages to get there. Loving the pages so far. And here is December 5th. Okay, I want to say this is going to be a spread that opens up, but I don't want to run out of pages before I run out of month. So all we're looking at today is the outer portion of this entry. I love this one. It is grungy, but the colors are not as light. There's still a lot of cream and white and brown, the tans, but there's a little bit of green in this one. And I have to tell you, I recently came across some beautiful fabric that is by April Cornell. This was actually a bag, like a little tote bag, very light, as you can see, not a heavy bag at all. And I was so inspired by this fabric. It looks so old. It reminds me of a feed sack. I just could not resist using this, but I didn't want it to completely take over the page. I wanted to be able to see just enough to appreciate the fabric, but have it not dominate, because I do want this entire book to stay grungy and very old feeling and very much like a nature notebook. So this page was built up around the idea of an old scrapbook, and particularly a girl who collects vintage Victorian ad cards that have birds on them. And let me show you one of the things I have in my collection of ephemera. I have a collection of old ad cards, and some of them are in better shape than others. I may have shared some of this before, but these are actual ad cards from probably the late 1800s and early 1900s. These images were on packages. They were cards in, that came in boxes of certain products, like this old Cottaline. That's I think it's made from cottonseed, white, Murphy, and Pickering, and a lot of sewing companies had beautiful ad cards. This is the Jackson Wagon Company. These it's very time consuming to get these little ad cards off of the paper that they were often pasted onto. Girls did keep scrapbooks like this. And so let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. This is an actual scrapbook page that I'm fortunate enough to have. It's probably, again, from around the 1900s. Everything is glued down. One of the nice things is that most of the glue was water soluble. And believe it or not, I'm not telling you to go out and do this, but the way I've removed mine, based on the advice of an antiques dealer, is to soak these in water. And sometimes it takes hours and hours, like maybe even overnight. The images will eventually lift off of the paper and the color will stay intact. So you can see all of these beautiful old images. Somebody must wash the dishes. Whose lot will it be? This is a 3 times a day problem. So look at these Victorian ladies talking about who's going to wash all of these dishes and no dishwasher. Here is another page from an old scrapbook. All these beautiful ad cards. Anyway, that was the inspiration. All of this was the inspiration for today's page. In my mind, this is the little girl, and she looks like she's probably, I don't know, 14 years old. This is her little page, and it is approaching Christmas time, and she wants to have everything in place to show her family. Of course, in the story that I have made up, a little bit more time has passed, that Christmas has gone, and there have been some other things tucked into the pockets as well. It's really neat. This girl's name is Agnes, and this was taken September 1st. That's either 1894 or 1899. It's hard to tell. So that's the actual photograph. And then we have an actual postcard that is postmarked 1909. It says, "Did Earl get a nice lot of cards his birthday? Suppose you are busy going to school. Our something is leaving us. Our winter," I think it says, "our winter is leaving us." This is postmarked February 5th, 1909, and it's written to Miss Dawn Drake, Montrose, Pennsylvania. So that is a card that was probably sent to someone in the family and given to her. And then this lovely book page, that's an actual book page that's very old. I've scanned it so that I can keep it, and I think this might even be in some digital printouts that are in my shop. I really need to keep a better record of what I've scanned and put in the shop. I love the bird there talking to the squirrel. So let's slide these back in. This is from a little doily that I found recently, and it does look old and hand-stitched. This is a scan from the page you just saw, and I printed that out and glued it down. I went ahead and stuck with using my new stamp just because I like it so much. So it's that blurred a little, which fits in with the page. But it says December 5th, and I've sewn down one of my vintage leaves. In the center we have a piece of seam binding and a brass key that it's definitely newer. This is a newer key, but I can't find any of my old skeleton keys right now. I've probably put them up somewhere for safekeeping, and you know what that means. I won't see them again until I come across them by accident and say, oh yeah, that's where I put them. This is an old button. I believe the way these buttons were made, I think that's called a shank on the back. It's bent a little bit, but I sewed this in with some heavy vintage thread. This is some really thick thread. It was probably used for, something heavier than just mending clothing. And I went ahead and left it tied because I know people did not waste anything. Everything was kept to be used again, so she just left the string in here in case she needed it for something. And over on this side, this actually is a postcard from the house of, well, I've scanned it and made a copy, but I cut the bottom off because it was the house of John Knox, and we're pretending that this is her house. So that's just part of this story. Here's some old fabric, kind of satiny. You can see where I have distressed the fabric even. There's part of an old rose petal that's been glued down, and some pretty velvet trim that I've glued on the edge. Part of the inspiration for this story was just thinking that she might have been given a piece of fabric that someone accidentally spilled something on, or that got ruined in storage, and it was given to her to make a scrapbook because it was no longer good for making clothes. So that is everything for today except my little entry that I put in. And this is from some vintage ledger paper that I have in my collection. It's just a really, really neat. It's from the late 1800s. It's just a wonderful book. It was a ledger book that then part of it was turned into a scrapbook. So it has things glued into it as well. So today I wrote December 5th, 2018. Today is Wednesday. The sun is shining, leaves continue to fall, and it is cold outside. The low tonight could be in the 20s. I had a long conversation with my son Joseph this morning. Both of my grandbabies are sick. Joseph is taking them to the doctor today. I have a long list of things to do, including taking some things to the post office, even though it's a day of mourning for George H.W. Bush and the mail won't run. So that is a little entry for today for this journal, and I hope you've enjoyed this page. It's a little different from some of the others, but I think it continues to tie in, and tomorrow I will share what is underneath. That is going to be my entry for December 6th. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.